Hey everybody, it's Tim at Broken Dice bringing you a battle recap. If you've seen the previous video on this, we've been doing a little Rome versus Successor Kingdoms, and the first three turns I did a kind of a battle recap, not an actual battle report where you take it, turn by turn, roll by roll, that sort of thing. Uh, this is more just kind of like an overview of what took place. Let's start here in the middle because it's like where everything really began to fall apart for me. Yeah, my Romans had to come down off that hill and engage with all these phalangites, and it did not turn out well. I lost, let's see, I think I got like three on the table. I lost four of my seven legionnaire units and a lot of light infantry and cavalry units, and it was just bad from the word go. Uh, but this is the view from the successor side of the table, and you see my units just got waxed bad. Yeah, I came down off that hill, engaged the units, kind of more like one at a time rather than all together, and I think that's what really did me in on that. If I could have held them in place and then one on the flanks, it would have been a much better scenario for me, but I could not get that done, and then my flank attacks just fell completely apart. So yeah, it was an interesting game. It was a fun game. There was a lot of twists, a lot of blunders on my part that just really aggravated me to no end. But that's why we play the game. That's why we roll the dice. Yeah, it was quite something. Yeah, to play this one out. I can't wait to have this combination on the table again because there's a lot of things that went on. So let's move down and we'll look at the Greek right flank and talk about what happened down there a little bit. Like I said, on this one, yeah, the phalangites took it to my legionnaires, and you can see the one that's left in combat. Well, he's not going to be there for very long. That would have been, but at the end of the game, at the end of my part of turn four, I had lost two divisions, and another one was severely chewed up with a lot of shaken units, and so it ended the battle pretty quickly at the end of my turn four. And going into his turn four, we just decided to play some things out just for fun, just to see how it would work out. And it didn't work out any better for me. It really didn't. So let's go down here and take a look at the Greek right flank. Okay, down here on the Greek right, things did turn out pretty well for me on this one. My Scutari unit and that cavalry unit held up against guard cavalry that was supported by not only that unit of Thessalian light cavalry that was there, but there was also another medium cavalry unit that was there. Plus, I was able to kill two of his commanders, and it was and one was his army general, and that was about the best thing that happened to me. But I still couldn't move beyond that point. It was like I couldn't make any headway to come to the assistance of my center division, which had all my combat power in it, and it just got chewed up horrendously so. Um, and you can see, let me tilt this camera down just a little bit, and you can see that he still had quite a few units back here that were coming on to the table. Now that medium cavalry unit at the rear there, that's the one that fell back after losing combat, but it fell back in good order, so it was not like a big thing that was going to happen in the game anyway. So he still had plenty of stuff here on this flank to do me in. So there's one other little thing I want to look at, but I'll talk about it when for the Greeks, but I'll talk about it from the Roman side of the table because that's where they did me in at. So let's go down and we'll take a look at the Greek left and talk about that. All right, here we are at the Greek left. And as you can see, there's not very many Romans hanging out down here. They got beat up pretty badly. the Thracatai and Thurophorii, and uh, they did a number on my guys. Bad dice rolling, excellent support tactics from my opponent Kurt. He did a great job, and yeah, just I just couldn't overcome certain things. And let's one thing I could not overcome. And let's move this camera up just a bit so you can see one of my greatest failures is that big unit of cavalry at the top. That's my army general and his Gaelic cavalry, all dressed in red because they've adopted the Roman way. And he blundered twice. Turns 3 and 4, he blundered. Then, as units were falling back, he had to move out of their way as they were making movements back, and so he had to turn. It was shifting back away from the combat over and over and over. And it's just like that was it was awful. It was like you can't believe it's like you see the two units to the left here. There's a Thurophorii and a Thracatai unit over there. They defeated a legionary unit. Well, that legionary unit on turn on my part of turn 4 had to give ground, which forced my um, cavalry commander. They had to shift out of the way to give room for that uh, unit to give ground. So they shifted. Well, that those two units followed up and stayed in contact with them and then destroyed them on the spot. Yeah. And then I had it. Okay, first off, there was a blunder that made me give ground, and then I had to give ground because of that unit moving. And so my commander went from being in a position to surge forward and do something to sitting in the background and doing absolutely nothing through those 4 turns of the game. Terrible use of one of your best units on the table on my part. And oh, what was really funny was at the beginning of turn 4, I actually moved one of my legionnaire units. I tried to get them into combat instead of supporting that legionnaire unit there in the middle in the red, and they blocked any sort of a charge that my cavalry would have had. But it was not for naught anyway because I blundered that roll anyhow, and it went downhill quickly after that. So now that we've looked at the table from the Greek side, let's go over on the Roman side and take a look from there. Okay, this is the Roman left facing the Greek right flank. You can see that the pretty stable flank. Of all the things that happened in the game, this was the best thing that happened to me, and it was basically a push. His units were pushing my units back. I was able to defeat a couple of units over there, but yet, because of the damage I took everywhere else, I had to move my off table division to the middle of the table and not support this division, and so therefore I couldn't gain any ground that way. Couldn't add any more power to this flank to take advantage of fighting this very powerful division of his to a standstill. So it's kind of disappointing, but hey, man, that's again that's why we play the games and that's why we roll the dice. So yeah, this is my Roman left. So now let's move down and we'll just take a little look at what happened in the Roman center. Okay, this is the thing I wanted to talk to you about. This unit on the phalangites on the left side of the screen here. They were pretty much unengaged with anything of significance throughout the battle. And whatever they were engaged with, they just went through them. They destroyed them. I know they took out a unit of legionnaires and they took out a unit of Scutari, and it just nothing could stand in their way. And they eventually made it to the hill. Once they broke one unit in front of them, there was nothing that could stop them. I threw a unit of Illyrian infantry at them just to try to keep them from getting up to where they are, and that was useless because they went through them like they weren't even there. And so when my buddy Kurt got him to the top of the hill, on his turn, he turned him to face here, and this was going to turn into a nightmare, a literal nightmare. I'm almost glad that the battle ended when it did because this would have just been horrible. Yeah, they would have just went through those two units, hitting them in the flank. Giant phalangites that are able to get freed up and then hit someone in the flank. It would have just been nasty. But lucky for me, the game ended before I had to watch that. Okay, now let's move more towards the actual center of the table. Move the camera a little bit. Sorry about that. Kind of adjust. And now we're looking at the center from the Roman point of view. And you see that one phalangite unit has been able to maneuver all the way around that last unit of legionnaires that are stuck fighting in the middle there. That was not going to turn out well. And I'm kind of glad that the battle ended because I would have been taking my guys off with a shovel. So, and that's units off with a shovel. Yeah, I just could not get anything to survive here in this center. Coming down and trying to break those phalangites straight up without having any success on the flanks is just a recipe for disaster. When I couldn't get any success on either flank, it was they just ground down everything that was in front of them. And it's pretty cool that rule in Hail Caesar where you got to defeat a phalangite unit by more than two because of that pike rule. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a tough one to do, especially when you're talking about units that are even up. I mean, you have to really have a pretty bad dice roll if you're the phalangite player. Yeah, that's a tough nut to crack, especially when let's see they started off with five phalangite units and one basic hoplite type unit, and he only lost one phalangite unit, one, and yeah, and the unit that took care of them was so chewed up and shaken that it was gone the next time it ran into something. So yeah, that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough. Okay, as you can see here, this is from the center. Those Illyrians wouldn't last against that unit of phalangites over here. Yeah, and that unit of legionnaires right there. I've taken off all the shaken markers and all that kind, but they were a disaster. They fled back up the hill. I think what happened in this one was that so an instance where both that phalangite unit and my legionnaires were both shaken, and so they both had the test during the combat phase. He rolled poorly and lost his unit, and my guys gave ground, and they were like disordered and shaken, and it just yeah, it was not going to go well. So let's move on down to the Roman right and take a look at what went on down there. Okay, so from the Roman right point of view, where my army general was, who blundered twice and then just kept giving ground away to fleeing units. So yeah, yay, we did real poorly. But you can see where this was breaking down badly, and I just have one unit of legionnaires that are stuck out there in the middle, basically to get surrounded and chopped to pieces. That division there with my army general, it had two units of legionnaires. It had this heavy cavalry unit. It had light cavalry and light infantry and skirmishers. And it was a pretty powerful unit that I thought would do pretty well. It did not. It did not do well at all. So yeah, I ran into a buzzsaw, and that was it. This division here was the first to break, and it was my most powerful division. So yeah, it was a done deal after that happened. But yeah, it was a great game. My buddy did really well. His everything that he needed to do got done, and everything I needed to do was met with a blunder. So So there you go. But again, that's why we roll the dice, play the games, and have a good time. And it was a fun game overall. Just there were things that were going on, and it's so funny. It's like it was one of those games where I thought I was really close to having things break my way, especially there in the center when I'd pushed his one phalangite unit back across the river and his supports of those hoplites back across the river. And I thought, man, I get those to break. I'll be able to turn my guys and really do some damage. Never happened. Never happened. And again, that's where that rule where you got to beat those phalangite by more than two to get them to test. Because if it's two or less, it's a drawn combat. So and then they're when you're rolling the same amount of dice and you have the same things going on to hit and all that, that's a tough nut. It's really difficult to do. Uh, well, that brings us to the end of this video. Let's take a little gander back over here, kind of give a little wider view. Oh, sorry about that. Motion sickness. There we go. Yeah, that center, I really thought I had in that top left where my Legionnaires pushed them across the river. I really thought I had a shot, but it was not to be. Oh, well, but it was a fun game nonetheless. I look forward to the next one. I don't know what we're going to do, but I look forward to it. And that'll be it. So everybody enjoy your games. Get your projects going on. I know I got some painting projects up on the table. Finishing up some ECW stuff. Getting some more ECW on. I got some Scottish troops put together in my last channel update. It's Scottish Lancers, and I've got some just some regular Highland troops I got to get ready to go and get those painted up, ready for them to get onto the table. And before then, but I think we're going to do another ancient battle. I think I'm going to maybe bring out my Greeks and Persians, maybe? I don't know. We'll have to see. Well, everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.